The LA Kings continue to roll on home ice with a win over the Islanders. I'll tell you why the Kings goalie competition remains too close to call and why that's a good thing. Arthur Kaliyev made a solid return to the lineup, and the special teams were pretty special. Details on that and more on this edition of Locked on LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked on LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked on LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. My name is Eddie Garcia. I'm your host of Locked on LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast. It's a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 16 years and a passionate LA Kings fan for 30 years. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. So, real quick, today's show is being uploaded a little bit later than normal. I usually like to let you guys know what's going on. I know I've been in the podcast game for long before podcasts were a thing. And I know people like to consume the show at a certain time and a certain day. And if that gets disrupted, sometimes they don't like that. So I just want to let you know that usually I try and get the show out to you around 2, 3, 4 o'clock, somewhere like that. It's a couple hours later today because I and my wife both had doctor's appointments. My wife just had a knee replacement surgery, so she can't drive, so I have to drive her. And I saw a doctor today about my broken left big toe, which I injured in a beer league hockey game, taking a slap shot off of my foot. Good news, no surgery is going to be required, so happy about that. But sometimes life gets in the way of podcasting and YouTube shows, and so a little bit later than normal. So I appreciate all of your understanding in putting up with that. So the Kings played their second of 7 home games on this homestand last night against the New York Islanders. Quick recap of the game in case you missed it. LA trailed 1-0 after Jonas Korpisalo, their goaltender, allowed his first questionable goal of his brief time in LA. But in the second period, the Kings would claim a lead and they would never give it up with 4 straight goals. Blake Lizotte scored his 10th of the season to tip in on a Sean Walker point shot. About 4 minutes later, the Kings would get a huge opportunity with a 2-man advantage. LA would take advantage with a 5-on-3 goal from Drew Doughty, his 4th of the year, and a 5-on-4 power play goal from Alex Iafallo, putting in a rebound on a Victor Arvidsson shot off the post. Trevor Moore would add his 8th of the season to close out the scoring in that second period on a nice wrist shot. And the Kings had a 4-1 lead going into the third period. New York would get their second goal of the game, but that would be the final goal for them. Kings had a 4-2 lead going into the third period. And that is when Quentin Byfield would score into an empty net to wrap it up. 5-2 Kings get the victory. A solid win from top to bottom by the LA Kings against a team that's currently holding a playoff spot in the East, one of the wildcard spots, and against a goaltender in Ilya Sorokin that is likely to be a Vezina Trophy finalist. He'll likely be one of the top 3 goaltenders at the end of the season as voted on by the media when it is all said and done as far as who's going to get the Goaltender of the Year award. It's going to go to Linus Ullmark of Boston, but Sorokin, very good goalie. He could certainly, again, be a finalist for that award. So good win by the LA Kings. The Kings are now 6-0-1 in their last 7 games. And before we take a deeper dive into this one, let's crown a king for our player of the game against the Islanders. And this one's a tough call because there were a number of players who contributed to this victory. 5 different Kings scored goals. Great to see a lot of secondary scoring, by the way. And 14 different Kings registered at least a point. The only one who had more than 1 point was defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov, the trade deadline pickup. He had 2 assists. But I'm going to go with LA Kings forward Alex Iafallo. Not only did he put home what would turn out to be the game-winning goal, but did good work as well on the Kings' penalty kill, and special teams were a big part of the Kings' win against the Islanders last night. So Alex Iafallo gets the crown as our player of the game for the win over the Islanders. Crown him. As for the game overall, the game had a much better flow than the previous game for the Kings, a shootout loss to the Predators. The ice seemed to be much better. There was no basketball game earlier in the day in this one. And the Kings all around played much better, tighter game, smoother skating and puck handling, just all the way around a much better effort than they had against the Nashville Predators. And the Kings' special teams were special. LA killed off all three Islanders power plays. Now, New York did score a goal right after the Kings did kill off a penalty. It's one of those ones that kind of isn't it. Well, it isn't officially a power play goal, but it kind of is. But the Kings PK was still very solid all night long. Final minute of the game or so, Quentin Byfield took an ill-advised delay of game penalty when he flipped the puck into the seats. The Islanders would pull their goaltender and get a 6-on-4 opportunity, but the Kings did a good job of not allowing any quality chances and having that 2-goal lead stand up until Byfield came out of the box and put it into the empty net. So a way to close out a win, even though there was a mistake made at the very end that could have given the Islanders a chance to kind of get back in the game, having some hope. But the Kings, again, penalty killers and defense did the job along with goaltender Jonas Korpisalo, who we're going to talk about more in just a bit. Meanwhile, continuing with the special teams, LA 2 for 2 on the power play. And remember, LA was 1 for 19 with the man advantage coming into the game. So good to see the power play get back on track a bit. Now, it was aided by some poor decisions by the New York Islanders. One of their tough guys. Now I'm drawing a blank on his name. Wow, that's bad. But anyway, it wasn't not Brock Nelson. It was anyway, the hell with it. One of the players for the Islanders, whose name I'm going to remember as soon as we stop recording, made a dumb play when he took a bit of roughing call against Rasmus Kupari, or at least he got into a scrum after Rasmus Kupari did. And Kupari's helmet came off, and he picked up the helmet. Matt Martin is the guy's name. Thank you for my brain to work. Matt Martin picked up Rasmus Kupari's helmet and threw it down the ice. Really dumb thing to do. He got an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for that. Right after that, there was a kneeing penalty called on Zach Parise, on Gabe Velarde, and thank goodness not another knee-on-knee injury. Velarde, that's a scary hit. He was able to get up and shake it off and continue on to the game and look no worse for wear. But a two-man advantage for the Kings, and we've seen a few situations like this in the past where the Kings didn't take advantage of a big opportunity, but they definitely did on this one, scoring again 2 power play goals, first on the two-man advantage and then on the ensuing power play after that. So great job by the Kings of playing good, solid special teams all night long and taking advantage of a opportunity when it presented itself. Head coach Tom McClellan finally got Arthur Kaliyev back in the lineup. And while Kaliyev didn't get much of an opportunity on that Kings second power play unit, he was really good 5-on-5, which has been a knock on him. He's been more of a power play specialist, to be honest. But I thought he played with a lot of energy, thought he was aggressive, picked up an assist on the Iafallo goal, which was the game winner, had a great pass ahead to Carl Grundstrom for a near breakaway goal in the game. As a matter of fact, that fourth line for the Kings, Kaliyev, Grundstrom, and center Rasmus Kupari, I thought they all played a very solid game. I will be shocked if that fourth line isn't together once again for the next game coming up on Thursday against Columbus. And if you've listened to the show recently at all, you know I have been complaining about Kaliyev not being in the lineup. But I will say this for head coach Todd McClellan. Obviously, he knows his players better than I do as far as interacting with them, what their personalities are like, what motivates them. At least a good coach will know those things, figure those things out, and at times do what he has to do to manipulate that player or to push the right buttons to get that player to play well. It's possible that Arthur Kaliyev is a type of player that when you bench him for a few games, that can motivate him, possibly. He certainly looked motivated in this game. He certainly looked like a player that didn't want to come back out of the lineup. So if that's the case, I'll give Todd McClellan credit for keeping him out of the lineup, maybe have him simmer a little bit, watching up in the press box and not getting out on the ice, because it seemed like he was holding him out for a little longer. And again, I know Zach McEwen wanted to get him some games because he had been injured recently, wanted to get him some games because he's new to the team. I get all that. So maybe that's a legitimate reason why Kaliyev was out and Zach McEwen was in. But as I've said many times, Arthur Kaliyev needs to be in the lineup for the LA Kings. If he can do this 5-on-5, he definitely needs to be in the lineup because he had some great scoring chances, made some great passes. Like I said, he was handling the puck well, being creative, being aggressive. Thought a really, really good game for Arthur Kaliyev. Exactly what the Kings want to see. And again, he was a factor in this game, and he didn't. The second power play unit didn't even get that much time because of the situation with the what the power plays were for the Kings. So great performance by Arthur Kaliyev. Great to see him back in the lineup, and hope to see him there much more going forward. I've also complained about Jordan Spence not being in the lineup while Sean Durzi has been injured, and McClellan once again sticking with Sean Walker on the right side of the third pairing on defense with Alex Edler. Walker had a really bad turnover early in the first period, but he got bailed out by Jonas Korpisalo. However, after that, he actually did play a pretty solid game. Did have an assist on the Blake Lizotte goal. The Kings still, again, the second power play unit didn't get a lot of ice time, so he wasn't out there to run that second power play unit very much. I think, again, Jordan Spence is a better asset in that role than Sean Walker, but I will admit, Sean Walker, I thought, other than that first mistake he had early in the game, did play a pretty solid game all the way around. But I hope we see Jordan Spence back in the lineup here in the near future, and maybe we'll see him against Columbus. Not sure, but again, Tom McClellan deciding while Sean Durzi is out that he is apparently going to go with Sean Walker for now. We'll see if that changes or not. I'm going to have an update on the Kings goaltending competition and give you an injury update on Kevin Fiala and Sean Durzi. We'll do that in just a moment, but I want to remind you today's episode of Locked On LA Kings is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. It's now past the midway point of the NBA season, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's a bonus bet back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sports app. It is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to points scored to three-pointers made. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in a bonus bet when you go to FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So time to update you on the Kings goaltending competition between Phoenix Copley and Jonas Korpisalo. Last night, Korpisalo getting the start as the two goaltenders are alternating starts as we go along. And that plan is apparently going to continue for the rest of the week at least. But Jonas Korpisalo allowed 2 goals on 28 shots, had some solid saves on a few odd man rushes, including one late in the third period. He did cover up for a few miscues and made some big saves in that regard. And your teammates absolutely love you as a goaltender when you can erase some of their mistakes and it doesn't end up costing them and the goal doesn't go, or the puck doesn't go in the back of the net. So nice job by Jonas Korpisalo of picking up his teammates. Definitely had a very solid game, not spectacular, but a very solid start by the Kings' new goaltender. So here are the updated numbers between Jonas Korpisalo and Phoenix Copley since the trade to bring Korpisalo to Los Angeles. So Jonas Korpisalo is now 3-0 as a member of the LA Kings. His goals against average dropped very, very slightly from 2.01 to 2.00. His save percentage remains exactly as it was before or after his last start, which is .929. He has now allowed 6 total goals in 3 starts on 84 total shots. As for Phoenix Copley, since the trade to acquire Jonas Korpisalo, he has a 2-0-1 record, a 1.63 goals against average, and a .932 save percentage. He's allowed a total of 5 goals in 3 starts on 73 shots on goal. So this race is still too close to call, in my opinion. Phoenix Copley does have the slight advantage in the statistics, but Korpisalo is undefeated, and I think he's faced some tougher competition in the Islanders and the Avalanche on the road. His other win came over the Blues. Copley has wins over Montreal, Washington, and Nashville. So again, honestly, I don't know if I had to pick right now, if the playoffs started tomorrow, I'm not sure which guy would be the #1 goaltender. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision right now. I don't have to make it at all. But still some time to try and figure things out. I think both goalies have earned the trust of their teammates. I think that the Kings could win in the postseason with either goalie in net, just as it looks right now, the way they've played of late. I think it's a great problem to have, as I have said, and I hope this is the way it continues for the rest of the regular season. Coming up on Thursday, the Kings are hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets. That is Jonas Korpisalo's old team, but he will not get the start against Columbus. That rotation that they've been using, the alternating of starts, means that it's Phoenix Copley's turn to get in net, and head coach Todd McClellan said earlier on Wednesday that he's going to keep that rotation going. I'm sure Korpisalo wouldn't mind going up against his old team, but they want to keep the alternating of starts. And so it is Phoenix Copley's turn. And so he will get the start against Columbus on Thursday. We do have a bit of an injury update on forward Kevin Fiala and defenseman Sean Durzi. Both did not skate in practice on Wednesday, according to friend of the show and LA Kings insider Zach Dooley. So both will not play on Thursday against Columbus. I know Kings longtime TV analyst and friend of the show, Jim Fox, said on the TV broadcast against the Islanders that if Fiala wasn't skating by Wednesday, that he would be concerned that Fiala's injury was perhaps more serious than we've all hoped. Now, Jim Fox is no doctor, but I'm not, I'm not completely sure how much I buy into that theory or not. But he has been around hockey for a long time. Clearly, he knows injuries when he sees them based on just being around the game and seeing different injuries, things like that. So we'll see if that holds or not. If we should be a little bit more concerned because Fiala is not back on the ice yet. Durzi as well. So we shall see. But then again, really, the Kings, what's their motivation? There is no motivation to rush either guy back into the lineup. The Kings are going to make the playoffs. Obviously, it's not official yet, but they're going to make the playoffs. And yes, seeding and home ice advantage are important reasons for the Kings to want to have all their guns firing if they can. But at the same time, you want Kevin Fiala, you want Sean Durzi to be as healthy as possible when the playoffs come around. And so the Kings are going to be understandably cautious with both of them, as well they should be. And especially with Durzi, because it seems likely that he is dealing with some kind of head or neck injury. Obviously, we have not heard the word concussion, but that's certainly a possibility. So you want to be extremely careful with that as well. So as far as both players go, yes, obviously we're going to be waiting to see when they get back on the ice because that's a sign that they're closer to returning. That isn't the case at this point, but again, there is no reason to rush this. Give them all the time they need so that we can hopefully have them both available for the most important part of the season, which is, of course, playoff time. And I was thinking this is also, I think, another reason to get Jordan Spence some more playing time. If you're going to think worst case scenario, Sean Durzi's out for the season, or he's got a concussion, and you can't put a timetable on those things. So you just have no idea when he's going to feel better to play or not. Make sure that you get Jordan Spence some playing time to get him ready in case he's needed in the playoffs. So just another reason why I think we need to get Jordan Spence a little bit more playing time going down the stretch. I called him Sean Spence the other day. I think I combined Sean Durzi and Jordan Spence. So if I did that again, I apologize. I know it's Jordan Spence, believe me. Want to let you know about some news regarding how and where you will be watching LA Kings games likely next season. Plus, we want to look at the Pacific Division. Vegas keeps winning, and that goalie we know oh so well keeps winning as well. We'll get into that in just a second. But first, I want to remind you that today's episode of Locked On LA Kings also brought to you by Built Bar. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories? You got to try Built Bar. They are so delicious, you will not think you are eating something that's good for you. Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate. They come in unbelievable new flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. Not sure how Built does it. These things they're not candy bars. They only taste like candy bars. 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, but a whopping 17 grams of protein to help you with your workout or just give you a little boost of energy. And you can now get them. Well, you can always get them at built.com, but also now at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. They are in the pharmacy section. In addition to new flavors, they have the old favorites as well, like cookies and cream, double chocolate, and coconut puffs. Built Bars, protein bars that taste like candy bars. All right, checking in on the Pacific Division standings as of Wednesday, March the 15th. Vegas is still in first place in the Pacific. They've got 90 points. They had a 5-3 win over the Flyers last night. And yes, Jonathan Quick got the win. He's still undefeated. 4-0 as a Golden Knight. The Kings remain in second place with 87 points after beating the Islanders. The Oilers moved into third place in the division with a 6-3 win over the Senators. Edmonton now with 82 points. Seattle drops down to the number one wildcard spot in the West with 81 points. None of the top four teams in the Pacific are in action tonight. Vegas, LA, and Edmonton have all played 68 games in the season. Seattle has one game in hand on those three teams with 67 games played. If the playoffs started today, the Kings would host the Oilers in the rematch of last year's playoff series. Vegas would host the Winnipeg Jets. Seattle would take on Dallas in the opening round, and the final playoff spot in the West would be Minnesota against Colorado. Still much to be decided as far as the playoff seedings and the matchups, but right now that's what it would be. Kings versus Oilers in the first round. This time, though, LA with the home ice advantage. We'll see if that holds or not. Before we close it out, there was an interesting article I wanted to briefly let you know about and invite you to read if you are interested in it. But Daniel Kaplan over at The Athletic wrote a story about the future of the regional sports networks. And not to get too deep into it, but basically the company that owns Bally Sports Net, which broadcasts many teams in Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NHL, including locally the LA Kings, the Angels, and the Clippers. Anyway, that company that owns Bally Sportsnet has filed for bankruptcy. Now, I won't, again, if you want to read the whole article and get all the information from that Daniel Kaplan article in The Athletic, you can certainly go read it. But basically, if his reporting is accurate, he talked to some broadcasting experts and tried to figure out exactly what does this mean if you're an LA Kings fan, for example. Where are you going to be able to watch the games next year? Now, he said because of the NHL season almost being over, there's almost zero chance that any of this current news is going to affect the NHL season, the rest of this NHL season. It could affect the baseball season, which hasn't begun yet. So if you're an Angels fan, this is something that could affect you. But if we're talking about obviously the LA Kings, next season is when this could affect how and where we watch games. According to the people that he spoke to, the games will be broadcast somewhere. It's not as if the games aren't going to be available for you on television somewhere. How and where is obviously still to be determined. There could be some over-the-air broadcasts on local cable TV. I know occasionally this has happened in the past with the Kings when there's been sort of a conflict with NBA or things like that. By the way, I didn't mention the Ducks. The Ducks are also on Bally Sports Nest, so shame on me for that. But I think maybe KCAL 9 or like there was like a UPN channel back in the day, I think, they used to have, they used to occasionally carry the odd home game here or there for the LA Kings. So there could be a handful of games for the LA Kings that would be, on local cable channels. There could be some sort of streaming service that picks up the LA Kings games. Certainly there'll be a few games here and there, like on ESPN Plus or TNT. But the games are going to go somewhere. We're just not sure where yet. And, there is a chance that you may have to subscribe to some other sort of either streaming network or cable channel to be able to get these games. But according to the experts that were quoted in this article, the bottom line is, will you be able to watch LA Kings games on television next season? The answer is yes. Exactly when and where, still to be determined. It could be kind of a hodgepodge of few games here, few games here, few games here. And like I said, you may have to pay extra for something, for maybe a channel that you don't normally stream or something along those lines. But still a lot to be determined. This is obviously affecting a lot of teams across many different sports. It's a pretty big story going forward, but good to hear at least that they said that there's virtually no chance that games just won't be available. They'll be available somewhere, but exactly where, not exactly sure. But we will keep you updated on any news regarding this. I'm guessing likely in the off season, there'll be some updated news on this as we get ready to go into next season to figure out where LA Kings television broadcasts exactly are going to be. Hey, don't forget tomorrow. It is a Thursday feedback show. Your chance to talk about anything that's on your mind involving the LA Kings. And at last check, we only had a couple of emails. There are a lot of comments on the YouTube channels. So maybe we have to go heavy onto that if we don't get any more emails. But if you want to get an email in, the opportunity is definitely there. The email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, lockedoneddie@gmail.com if you want to send an email. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously just post your comments below. I read all the comments and then try and pick a few of the more interesting ones to share on our feedback show, which is coming up tomorrow. Hey, thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen today. Now make your second listen game to game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Eddie Garcia. Sorry the show was a little bit later today than normal, but appreciate your patience with that. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and go Kings go.